Hello, and welcome to our lunch seminar series. Today, we are very pleased to have some of our own PhD candidates with us, and they will present their projects as they have been working on these past years. And with us, we have David Samuel and Poushali Sengupta from the Department of Informatics. Then we have Tobias Hvidsten from the Department of Technology Systems. We have Alouette van Hove from the Department of Geosciences, and Moen from the Department of Mathematics. And between each sessions, there will be a room for a few questions from the audience. So then I just start with the first one, which would be David Samuel from the Department of Informatics. Please.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's great to be here. And yeah, since it won't be just me who is talking today, there will be many of us. I won't have that much time to describe my work. So I will just go very briefly over various papers that I did on this topic, so hopefully you get some sense of what I did. And then if you are more interested, you can just ask me either in this short time window when we will have some questions or just here personally. Yeah. So my topic is data-constrained language modeling. And so when I started my PhD, language models were already really big within the natural language processing community, but not so in the general public. That, of course, really changed when ChatGPT was introduced. So now everybody knows what language models are, which is great. I don't really have to describe them that much. So yeah, so language models are these very strong models that we can maybe just say that they're able to automatically process and also produce human language. But the way we usually train these language models is very data hungry. In order for the models to actually learn our language, they need a lot of data. Typically, the newest models need trillions or tens of trillions of words in the whole training corpus so that they are able to learn the language. Which is great if you are interested in English and maybe Chinese. But for smaller languages, this is, of course, a big problem because we can't really just train a language model for Norwegian in the same way we train a language model for English. And yeah, so my focus in my PhD work was on this data-constrained scenario of pre-training language models. What can we do when we don't really have a lot of data? And yeah, and so my first work on this topic was this paper that I did with my colleagues in the language technology group. And here we were just interested, okay, what happens when we just limit ourselves to 100 million words? Now, this is not just a random number. 100 million words is like estimated number of words on which humans are able to learn language really well. So 100 million words is like some estimate of what a 13-year-old child might see during its life. And of course, that's like orders of magnitude less than you typically use for training language models. And we tried different techniques to improve the language modeling performance in this scenario, and we actually achieved quite good results. And we showed that, yes, it's actually possible to train a quite capable model in this range when you really try hard enough. And then at the same time with our work, there appeared this baby LM challenge, shared task, that really tried to do basically the same thing. So also, what happens when you limit yourself to just 100 million words? And this is not only interesting theoretically, but also in practice, this is very useful because then it means that the whole training is much cheaper to do, and you can just experiment with different things that you can't really afford in the normal scenario when you have this huge data set, and it's really expensive to run each experiment. So here I just experimented with different kinds of things. So in this paper, I tried this kind of self-learning approach when the model bootstraps itself from its own hidden representation to provide a better signal during training. And then with my colleague Lucas, we did another paper in this shared challenge, where we tried to change the transformer architecture a bit so that every layer can choose what other previous layer to attend to, and this leads to really good results, and we actually managed to win this challenge. So with this, we then adapted our models to Norwegian and trained a bunch of Norwegian bird models, again achieving quite good results and showing that this kind of data constrained approach that we found out really works well in practice too. So I talked about bird models so far because these were like the most useful models for us. But of course, everybody is talking about GPT models, and these GPT models are thought to be the kind of only models that are able to generate or produce human text, and they are also the only ones that are usually thought to be able to do this in context learning, where you don't really need to further train the model to solve some task, but you just need to prompt the model in a good way, and then the model can be adapted automatically to some other task. And in this work, I showed that actually bird models are just as well capable in this scenario. They are just different trade-offs, so bird models are much better than GPT models on some group of tasks and a bit worse on other group of tasks. And then next year, in the next Baby LM Challenge, we again joined forces with Lucas, and we tried to push this thing further and see what happens when you do both the GPT pre-training approach and bird pre-training approach together. And we showed that this actually leads to a much better model that is much more flexible than the previous models. And again, we won the challenge this time. And my last paper here is what we then did with this next approach, is that we again applied it to Norwegian. And now we were interested in much larger models than before. So with this Norbert model, there were like hundreds of millions of parameters. Here we are more interested in what happens when we train a really large model in the billions of parameters size. And we tried different approaches, tested them, what works best. We really focused on this continual training approach. When you first take a model that is really good, just trained on English, and you try to further adapt it to Norwegian. And again, we achieved quite good results there. And all the models that we trained so far are just openly available. You can use them. You can do whatever you want with them. You can find them here on Hugging Face also. And that's it for me. So please, if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you, David. Round of applause. We have time for a couple of questions maybe from the audience. Do you have some questions? No one? No. It's an impressive number of papers you have been accomplishing in this period. I think it's very impressive. So
yeah, thank you.
It's an interesting development. Okay, so the next speaker is also from the Department of Informatics. That's Poushali Sengupta. So the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming today. And also, I got the toughest job today to present my work in the 8 minutes or 10 minutes. So I will try to cover my work in a very compact way. I will not detail too much. So I'm Poushali from Department of Informations, and I'm working with Trustworthy machine learning model. My work related to explainable AI. Some of them are related to data privacy and also fairness. So here is my first work that is balancing accuracy and explainability, trade-off in complex AI model. Before I proceed too much, I hope you already know what is the explainability means. But still, I will give a little bit of overview. We all work with a large machine learning model, and they predict or sometimes take some decisions that we do not know why. So there is always a black box. So basically, explainable AI is a tools that try to help us to understand the machine learning models. But there is a existing problem regarding the explainability and the interpretability, or the between accuracy and the explainability. So basically, the more complex the model is, it is hard to explain them. So there are a few existing approach, SHAP and LIME, that mostly used in the various industrial area that sometimes struggles with these things. And we address that, and we try to develop a new theorem, new score metric, new scores to come up with explain the models. So what it does for our case, we develop a new theorem, we generate a new score that help us to know which features in our data has the highest or lowest contributions for generating decisions, taking decisions or the predictions. So to do this, the main things our model addresses how to deal with high dimensional data. As David says, that the main problem is the data hungriness, that we need a lot of data, but we try to simplify this. Okay, if we do not have a lot of data, but a lot of features, then how to deal with that? How to deal with feature uncertainty, because that is one problem, like if a feature is present or not present in a particular output, that can be also a little bit problem to handle when we try to see how much it impacts on the result. And how to deal with feature independencies and the dependencies. So these all three things are addressed by this paper that, here we, before the two new score I have we developed by mathematically. That is the first one for when the data features are independent to each other, and the next one when the data features are dependent to each other. Now the problem is like one for the accuracy and the explainability balance. That is for the existing models, they actually try to simplify the model, and for that they lose the accuracy. In our case, what we did, we generate a lightweight model, and then we try to train the model with the less data, and by mathematically theorems with projections and embedding distance, we show that two model, original and lightweight model, keep the same accuracy. Not only that, the lightweight model also able to give the same explanations as the original model. If you see this graph, you can see that the green one is original model that is trained with a lot of data, and the lightweight model, which is trained with the less data. The main goal is like we do not want to reduce the feature, we want to reduce the sample, because if we reduce the features, there are some features we already omitting that have some kind of impact. And they are also can be related to each other. So that's why it is the different from the existing approaches, because they actually reduce the features. For us, we show that we train the model with less data, and it's still able to score the features ranking in the same way. But is it scoring correctly? Is it better than SHAP? This is also proved in the papers. We can see here the red one is the features ranking by SHAP. We can see that age is the features that have the highest effect. The data I should explain here that I use, that is the data for predicting the brain signals for dementia. So we can see here the age is ranked first for the highest impact for predicting dementia, and also it's correctly that highest impact. But if you see the others, that are different from this one in SHAP. They have ranked different features. But when we see the accuracy, we can see that our approach has the highest accuracy. So if we train the model with the first highest ranking features of our approach, that gives them more accuracy than the SHAP. So that also says like our model is able to score the features more correctly and able to give the more accuracy than the SAP, which is like the best, till now, one of the highest used approach till now in market. Now, we have also applied this on the data that has not exactly the brain signals. We wanted to explore it another data set. So this is the data set with dependent features, and this is another paper we have worked that's focused on only with the dependent features. And for that, I take the data for the household appliances, and I applied the model same here. And it's also, you can see this one is the scores. They give like which appliances have the highest contribution and which is lowest, and it is, more or less same for the original and lightweight model. And if you see the original model and lightweight model performance, that is almost similar. So that means we are able to produce a model that's trained with less data, but also give a higher accuracy, and also correctly able to explanations like scoring the features. Not only it is dependent or independent features. Then this is also the computational complexity, and we can see that when we generate the score, that has the lower complexity, so it's nothing much with the score generations of the complexity. And my next paper is balancing the privacy and the explainability, because like when you explain more, then you can lose the privacy. That's one thing. And for there, it's mainly work with the hierarchical framework of the explainable AI. So basically, we develop a framework that's locally explained for the user, and then it's apply noise to the explainability and send it to the zonal part, and then we can see the zonal explainable. So it's kind of like end-edge cloud framework, but not exactly the federated learning that we use in nowadays. But it's mainly based on agreements. So basically, think of a scenario that you have smart gadgets in your home, and you want to understand your home, like which gadgets had the highest impact or not. And then you do not want to share this to the others. And then your electricity provider want to know about your home as well. So what you will do, you will come with this agreement with the electricity provider, where you choose and sign an agreement about the privacy budget, and you choose the privacy budget and apply this, so that your provider will get the noisy report rather than the actual one. You can see here, the first one is the actual report that the user get, and then this is the initial epsilon, and this is the optimal epsilon. Epsilon is the privacy budget when you put that how much noise you will put in your data. And then the user actually start negotiating from the initial to the optimal, and then they choose a budget and they apply it there, and this is the final report they have delivered to the electricity provider. And then the electricity provider will get that report from the various users, and then they get the zonal report, and they understand, like, in that zonal area, which gadgets had the highest impact for the electricity price. And I have done the experiments on a scheme that they get to know, like, washing machine has the highest impact, and they give a scheme like, okay, I will give you 20% off if you upgrade the washing machine is more energy efficient. And we see that after changing the washing machine or buying the more energy efficient washing machines, the electricity price dropped. And that also helps to control the smart, smart meters or the load, grid load, that is also efficient to do. So it's very important, both the perspective of users and the electricity provider. And there is my last work that is, I will present today, that is privacy, utility, and fairness balance. And that's work I have done is, so my all works are applied in a different kind of data set. So this, for this work, I have used the Norway's different states and their traffic system, and I use the differential privacy and the group fairness to represent the traffic, road traffic conditions. And here we use the group fairness with the shuffling technique. So we say like the, it's first dual stage shuffling technique for the fairness things. So at first they collect the data, they shuffle the data, and they put the noise on it, and also they try to maintain the group fairness based on the theory of the proportional representations. So all these theories I have not described here a little bit. If you get to know more about it, you just contact me. I just say like what kind of work I have done. And this is the group fairness traffic management. That's, the thing. And then we can also show in the graph that these are the cities and the traffic conditions before and after noisy data sets, how it is represented. And we can see like noisy mean and original mean has kind of same level. So no cities are here under or over representative. So in our algorithm, all the cities are fairly treated when they put the privacy budget on them. And then you can see like their difference is not that high about the noisy mean and the original mean too much. So you cannot see the clear difference a lot. So it's almost the similar. So it is fairly treated. And then we also developed an interactive heat map that I want to show. So you can see, oh, sorry, here. So if you go there in the map, you can see the 24-hour price predictions. That is with the noisy data set, so you cannot disclose the too much of information, but you can get the overall traffic view from here. So yeah, that's, I also, okay. So that's this was my last slide as well, so yeah. So I can go with that. So yeah, so this is the conclusions, and thank you. It's a lot of things, but.
Thank you so much, Poushali, for a very interesting presentation. I don't think we have time for questions, unfortunately, but I think I have to check this out because I've been using SHAP myself, so I might have something to learn from you.
Sure.
And then we go on to Tobias Hvidsten from the Department of Technology Systems. Are you ready? Yeah.
Do I need that?
Thank you. So I will be presenting some findings from a project which I'm working on. So I'm part of this called. So we're investigating the role which electric vehicles could have in the transition towards energy system with net zero emissions. So I just wanted to show some findings from one study I've been working on. And what we looked at there was a case study for Norway. And we looked into how how can flexible charging and also using electric vehicles as a battery, what role that can play in the future Norwegian electricity system. And also, since we're talking about using private cars, we have to consider the willingness to participate. So just briefly about the methods I'm using, a model called HIRES. So this is an electricity system model. It's a linear mathematical program where we optimize for cost. So the whole idea is the model knows how much demand we have and how much, and then it needs to invest in generation in order to meet this electricity demand. And then it optimizes sort of to minimize both operational and investment costs. And then what we do with electric vehicles is that as we optimize the electricity system, we also optimize how the electric vehicles are charged. So we know when the cars drive and how much electricity used for driving, and then we shift charging and also discharging around to be optimal for the electricity system. So just some very brief background for why we're doing this. So we're looking at the Norwegian system in 2050. So what is expected, at least in Norway, is that we will probably see a high increase in electricity demand. And that's the reason why we need. So even though the Norwegian system currently is more or less net zero when it comes to emission, hydropower will not be able to meet this demand going forward. And the potential for new hydropower is quite limited, as you see here, for various reasons. It's mostly sort of what is left of potential hydropower is protected, nature protection. So there's a small potential of 22 terawatt hours, but that's not enough to meet any all the demand projected by Statnett. So where could we get additional electricity? Probably from variable renewables. So I just included this plot to show sort of what's going on with renewables. So you have a lot of, here we just have a week in the summer. So we have solar in yellow. You see here we have a daily variation with a peak in the middle of the day, and then we have various forms of wind power, which could, like, it's more stable than solar power, but you can have quite large variation and also there in wind power. So we need some way to deal with this variability in energy supply. And what is sort of the most common solution to this is using batteries. So this just shows a typical day where you have a lot of solar generation during the day, and then in the evening you don't have enough production to meet demand, so you have some dispatch from hydropower reservoirs, and you meet the rest with stationary battery storage. So that's batteries which are built to actually just supply and meet energy demand. But then there's actually, as we're electrifying the vehicle fleet, there's a lot of batteries in the electric vehicles. And as you might know, most cars are just parked. It's parked most of the time. So maybe we could use these batteries to more than driving. So there's just some numbers here, but the number of electric cars towards 2050 is expected to increase a lot. Battery sizes in the cars are also expected to increase, which means that we could end up with quite a lot of battery storage just in the cars. And how would this look? So when we optimize this, it looks very similar to when we have stationary batteries. You charge the cars during the day when you have solar generation, and then you use that to meet demand in the evening. But as you see here, the vehicles are then distributed sort of according to where people live. So you have most cars in sort of eastern Norway. And this impacts how the whole system is designed. So if you just look at sort of here we have transmission and we have generation in the pie chart, and transmission is the black line. So the thicker the black line is, the more transmission you have. And typically what we see when we in a normal sort of case is that you have a lot of wind power in northern Norway, which is sent southwards. But then when we use the electric vehicles as battery storage, you have a lot of battery storage in eastern Norway, and that you can use to integrate a lot of solar power into the system here. And this also reduces the need to transmit electricity from northern Norway and southwards. So you have less wind power in northern Norway, which also is sort of could be a good thing considering recent sort of conflicts, for instance, with reindeer herding. So I mentioned initially that we have been looking at the participation. So we have been optimizing the system where we add more and more vehicles. And what we see, of course, the need for stationary batteries is reduced. And already if you could motivate 50% of the potential electric vehicles in Norway in 2050 to participate, you actually don't need any additional battery storage. And as batteries are quite expensive, we also see cost decreasing. What to consider here is that this cost does not take into the cost of having the infrastructure to use the cars. So you need these bidirectional chargers, and you might also need some incentives for the vehicle users to actually participate. But the idea is at least that using your car as a battery, you would charge your car when electricity is cheap, for instance, when you have a lot of solar power generation, and you would sell that back to the grid when there's high demand and low generation. So you would also earn a surplus from this. Yeah, so we have a preprint on this, so if you're interested, you can have a look. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tobias. Maybe one question? Are there any questions? No? Okay. Yes?
Thank you for your interesting talk. How long is it to your? We can use the grid of the electrical vehicles in like a power exchange system. Do you think?
It's difficult to say, but there are already trials on this. We've seen this in Great Britain. You have you can be part of a larger system where they aggregate several cars, and then this sort of operator sell your power for you. It's already working, and you can do it. I think it will take some time before at least you have the infrastructure in place, because you need to replace a lot of chargers to have this. And also cars need to support bidirectional charging.
Okay, thank you. And then we move on to Alouette van Hove from the Department of Geosciences.
So, hello everyone. My name is Alouette, and I'm one of the dScience PhD students at the Department of Geosciences. And in just 8 minutes, I will tell as much as possible as I can about navigating methane plumes, a journey from drone observations to flux estimates. So methane is considered one of the most important greenhouse gases, and its concentrations continue to rise. And if we want to assess any possible methods or measures we can take to mitigate climate change, it's important that we can actually measure those emissions accurately and know which sources emit what. And this is ongoing work. There's still a lot of uncertainty connected to this problem. And at the Geoscience department, we try to improve upon that. So in those photos, you can see a few of the possible methane sources here in Norway. And if you look very closely, then at the agriculture photo, there is a drone flying, which I will make a bit bigger. So this is what we do. We have drones at the UIO Drone Lab, and we use gas sensors, wind sensors on those drones to take atmospheric observations. And then in an Bayesian inference framework, we use those observations to get to estimates of methane fluxes, but for example, also the source location. So what we do is that we start with this very wide probability distribution, and by using this noisy data fused with the atmospheric dispersion model, we update this probability distribution and try to constrain it to a more accurate and precise estimation of the fluxes. So to show you how this works, I will just show like a synthetic run. So this is a 300 by 300 domain. You can see here the source location and the flux or the emission plume as you would expect it from this atmospheric model. Below you see the probability distributions, and when I start the animation you will see that those will be updated as the drone moves through the domain. So as you can see, the drone doesn't get the expected concentrations, but it gets some noisy concentrations, which are realistic, what you would see when you do an actual experiment. And especially when the drone moves through this plume, so when it gets these elevated concentrations, you see that it's able to constrain this probability distribution. So it started at 6 meters, did this lawnmower profile 4 meters, and now it does this lawnmower profile at 2 meters. And what we end up with is a probability distribution which is a bit more informed about where the source is and what the flux estimate is. This is something new, doing these drones with the Bayesian inference, and we tested this in a very nice project where we looked at emissions from ruminants. So ruminants emit methane, and we looked at different herds, cows, sheep, cattle, camels. You can see the photos over there. And we looked at how much methane they emitted. And we did this before grazing and after grazing. And what we saw was that our results were more or less in the similar range as the IPCC bottom-up approach, which was gave us confidence that this method is working. And what we also saw is that the animals emit less before grazing, so before they fed, than after feeding. And this is exactly what you would expect. There's some animal scientists in the group as well. Once they start eating, so the rumen in the stomach produces the methane, so you would expect higher emissions after feeding. Now, in this scenario with the cows, we knew where the animals were. We knew more or less what the wind direction was, so we could fly this drone very nicely in the plume. But if we have a scenario where we don't know what the source is, where we can find it, how strong it is, we want to go towards a framework where we can send the drone into the field and that autonomously it finds its path, so that it decides itself where to go, where it thinks it can find the most information. So the biggest part of my PhD is trying to use deep reinforcement learning to develop policies which the drone can use to navigate in this methane plume. So to show you, this is like a similar situation as you saw before with this lawnmower, but now you will see it, how the drone behaves when it uses this reinforcement learning trained policy. And we see that the drone first maybe searches for the plume, and then takes most measurements actually inside the plume, and also some just upwind from the plume. So what we see with this technique is that we are able to constrain this probability distribution more than where we fly this pre-planned lawnmower profile. We're also doing this now for multi-agent systems, so for multiple drones which are collaborating or not collaborating. And of course, we would like to apply this also in the real world. Thank you very much, and please reach out if you have any questions or suggestions, want to discuss this further.
Thank you very much. I think we have time for one question. Yes?
Hi,
Hi.
nice talk. Did you try to validate your results with hyperspectral images from satellites to validate which area contains the methane plumes?
So what they do with the satellites is mostly they look at with plumes or sources which emit much more than, for example, this group of cows. We are talking about maybe 500 kilograms per hour, because the satellite maybe has a resolution of 30 by 30 meter grid cells. So they need multiple grid cells to be filled with this elevated methane concentration to actually do this Bayesian, something related to Bayesian inference or some other techniques to come to an estimate. What we did do when we did this cow study, the Prisma satellite was flying over, and we had one herd in the boma, so on what you saw on the photos, and then we had a free grazing herd, and then we also had a bigger herd in another boma, and we applied a simple ratio to see if we could detect some anomalies in the hyperspectral satellite data signal. And we did see anomalies exactly at the locations where the hertz were. So this is like promising, super interesting. And this could, I think, inform, for example, drone campaigns. It's maybe the signals are too weak to actually estimate them with the satellite, with the current satellites. But this could inform us, okay, here is maybe a source. Let's go there and check it out. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was
Thank you.
really interesting. I'm interested in both in Bayesian statistics and reinforcement learning.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. And then our last speaker is Per Moen. So the floor is yours.
Right, yeah. Hi, my name is Per. I'll try to go over quite quickly what I've been doing for my PhD, which is statistical approaches to change and anomaly detection. So the title of my PhD is Statistically Optimal and Computationally Efficient Methods in Change Point Analysis. It's a quite theoretical and mathematical PhD, but I thought I'll spare you of that. So I think I'll just go over the basic ideas of the field at large. So the main motivation for both change and anomaly detection is really just to use data in an automated way to find out when something happens or something is wrong. So a change, for instance, might indicate, depending on the context, it might indicate that a major change has happened in the stock market, or that a mechanical fault has or is about to happen in some production facility, or perhaps to stretch it a bit, it can also indicate some natural disaster that is about to occur. So typically you will have data such as this, where the data behaves in a certain way, and then you will have a change or an anomalous behavior here, which will indicate some sort of failure. So given that this has been of great interest, it has a quite long history of research backing it. So one particular field that has a quite rich history is that of outlier detection, which seeks to, given a data set like this, seeks to find points that are abnormal in relation to the rest of the data. But what change and anomaly detection does is that it doesn't look for single points, but rather consistent or persistent changes in the behavior of the data. And once you have this type of framework, then it's much easier to aggregate information across time, so that you, for instance, consider these data points as a group rather than just looking at each of them individually. And that helps you to find odd or abnormal behavior much easier than just looking at each one individually. So just a quick clarification or recap. Change detection is trying to find points in time in a data sequence where there is a change in the behavior of the data. And anomaly detection is just a special case, I would argue, where you're just looking for changes from normal to abnormal behavior. And sort of the fundamental issue is that you will always have random fluctuations in your data. So the fundamental problem is to separate noise that is expected, or randomness that is expected, from an actual underlying change in the process that generates the data. And that's not the only challenge, really. Is, for instance, there are many ways that your data may change behavior. So this is a prototypical example where you have a sudden shift in the expected value of the data, but it can be quite more complex than this. For instance, you might have a change in the variability of the data. So here, these red lines indicate or make out the region in which a new data point is likely to fall. But after here, in this data, after a certain time, then this region shrinks because the data has less of a variance. And this would have been way more difficult to spot, at least with the naked eye, without these red lines. Another thing that I've been focusing quite a lot during my PhD is how do you borrow information across different data sources. So say you have, for instance, some physical object that you want to monitor and look for changes or degradation, and you have multiple sensors on it. Then the question is, how do you combine the information across multiple sensors to say something about the system at large? For instance, trying to uncover changes that occur in, let's say, only one of the sensors, or perhaps all of them at the same time. So like in the rest of data science, there is sort of a split in cultures between sort of the black box type of culture, where you try to impose very flexible models or algorithms to solve your problem. And the second culture is more of the statistical one, where you use more like transparent methods. And since I'm doing statistics, I thought it'd be best to try to highlight some of the advantages of the statistical approach. And the first one is that when you're making a statistical-based algorithm, you're sort of making the algorithm yourself. You're constructing the mechanics, you're choosing sort of the inner logic of the model so that you know how it decides that there is a change or an anomaly, and when it's not. And a direct consequence of this is that it's much easier to include knowledge that you already have about the system, or expert knowledge from before, at least compared to very complex models. Then that can be more challenging. Another consequence of sort of having an open box type of model is that it's much easier typically to explain the conclusions. And also, quite importantly, it can be much easier to quantify the uncertainty of the outputs of the algorithm. And if you have like a very high stakes question of whether or not you should shut down your power plant because an algorithm tells you that something is wrong, then it's pretty nice to know if the model is certain or the algorithm is certain in this conclusion. And the last point, which is perhaps not an advantage, but just like more like an observation from my part, is that not all changes in your data stream are necessarily extremely complex or delicate. They can have a simple shift in the mean or something. And what you do when you're using an extremely complex type of black box type of model is that you're having a model that requires a lot of data, and it looks for really complex changes. And this can be, I would argue, a bit like shooting a sparrow with a cannon, because it's not necessary. You need a lot more data. Yeah. All right, so I'll wrap it up by just showcasing an application from finance from a recent paper that I submitted a few months ago. So here I downloaded, from the year 2000 up until November last year, I downloaded currency exchange rates from a basket of major currencies. And each time series here shows the value of $1 in terms of another currency. And I employed a real-time change detection method to try to find in real time, or I was pretending that I was in real time, trying to find changes in the correlation structure between the currencies, as to try to find structural changes within the economic relationships between countries. And the resulting changes that were found were quite interesting, because from the period starting in 2000, including 9/11 and everything, there was no changes that were found. But the first change that was actually found was just after the collapse of the Lehman Brothers. And again, this algorithm didn't have any knowledge about the financial crisis, but at least it found a bunch of changes during the financial crisis. And the last change point that it discovered was when the UK voted to leave the European Union. So not during COVID, for instance. But Brexit definitely gave a change that was detectable. And as a final remark, I think I should probably redo this thing, because I suspect there has been a new change point during the last few weeks. So we'll see. I have to do that. Right? I think that my time is up. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Per Just. Quick question or two? Yes, down here.
How do you, what will your graphs show if you take in Trump in the models?
Well, Trump was, he won the election, so this stopped in the end of November. So he did win the elections, and that didn't cause any change to be discovered. But I would have to download the data again up until recently to see if there is one. Yeah.
More questions? I have a question myself.
Yeah.
Have you thought about using these techniques in reverse? I mean, you're looking at a normal process and then some anomaly occurs, but you could think of it in a situation where you have observed that there's something wrong with your process and you try everything to fix it, and you would like to pinpoint what actually works and when the process goes back to normal state again.
Yeah, that sounds. I haven't really thought about that, but I mean, it's still a type of change, though.
Yes,
It's
it
still
is.
changing back to normal.
Yeah.
I don't think that has had a lot of focus in the research, but it's actually a relevant question. Yeah.
So I'm working in reliability theory, and sometimes we are also interested in fixing things, you know. So
Yeah.
and we don't know what's wrong. That's also a problem, that we have some complicated machine, and we try to figure out what went wrong, and we try everything, and we would like to have some sort of test. So it could be an application. Okay, thank you so much. I think that was everything today. I think it's been a lot of interesting presentations, and it's really good to see that these PhD students have done so much good work. So thank you so much, all of you, for coming. And next week we'll be joined by a professor at the Department of Mathematics, Andreas Karlsson, who will talk about how fiber geometry can be used to control droplet flow. And you can find the full program on our website. So thank you all for coming.